the person I can control is myself. So what do my habits look like? It's like each stage in life, from high school to college to having a real job to married to then kids. It's like the efficiency in some aspects need to get tightened up, or just you just have less time to mess around with. So it's not necessarily. So for me, it's like it's my mornings. Will my kids see me waking up, before them, getting into the Word? Will they hear me praying? Will they see me? I picture coming down the stairs and seeing my dad at the table with his cereal, reading the Bible, and that was just a staple. And it was like that was, sometimes I probably thought about it, sometimes I probably didn't. But then you zoom out, and then you're all of a sudden, 23 years old and going, wow, that was, that's how my dad was just grounded. He was in that. So for me, as being grounded, it's having them see that I'm keeping a healthy body. So my mornings are really like working out, sauna, getting in the Word, and being able to pray. And then so I kind of go, that's a great start. Like we're moving in the right direction if we just kind of keep those things as staples. And those I can control because I'm waking up before the family's waking up. Once the family wakes up and everything else starts, as you know, you get less control over your time. And then for me right now, full transparency, so 3-month-old. So we're coming out of like a dark cloud of fog being in with the older two aren't self-sufficient in doing stuff. So they're not, so you have, they're still full, of course, tantrums, or they want to be held. And it's like, you can't hold 3 people and you can't hold two people and a crying baby. So we're like, our house, there was some construction going on. I started coaching baseball, which was, is just a big time commitment for 3 months. Work's been picking up even more so just with it being springtime in the real estate market. And then a 3-month-old and these other two. So it's like, it's a lot of stuff that it's been like a lot of days of like, hey, we're not thriving. We're definitely not thriving, but we are.
Yeah, for sure.
We're surviving. There's maybe moments to savor. And then a lot of it's just like, we just got to get to tomorrow. We're in a tough spot. And getting help from people. So we're coming out of that. So that's very real. And then we get to where we have a 6-month-old and you kind of forget about some of those early months. The other thing I would say is being with my kids, it's being intentional to, like, Cruz is 3 years old. So if he hits someone at a play date, it's like, it's easiest to distract and just move on. Or do you take the intentional parenting route, and actually go talk to them and kind of go, hey, that's, you can continue to, if you're going to continue, we need to remove you because it's not fun to be around, little boys that are hitting their friends. But that takes effort. You're not always like pumped to have those conversations. But for me, is like just trying to stay on the intentional side of teaching lessons. Obviously, he can't contemplate everything, so we're not going to get super deep. But we are going to try to start to understand that you can't keep doing that. Otherwise, you're not going to have, people aren't going to want to hang out with you. And it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem if you keep doing that, or we can't just have tantrums and do this all the time, or, we need to actually physically remove you and get in a different space so you can tantrum there. Those, you maybe don't have anyone in the tantrum stage right now.
No, not tantrum. No, not really.
Where there's no control over what's going on.
I'm in between on that one, thankfully.
so then I would say moving forward, that will just turn into, if he's, how do we, constant reminders of, who did you talk to at school today that doesn't have other, friends? Who did you go out of your way to sit by at lunch today? Just like trying to have those conversations will be the best way that I know how to, and then talk to people like you and be like, your kids are in this stage? Like, what did you do when they were this age? And try to pick some stuff from people that have gone before you.
That was the whole purpose of me starting this podcast, was to steal ideas from us. Like, if I can steal as many good ideas as I can, then I'm going to do it. Yeah. Hopefully somebody else that's listening gets a good idea as well. But, my whole intent is to steal ideas to be a better dad and a better business owner, because it's exhausting, right? I mean, it's thankfully, I've got a 9-year-old who's pretty self-sufficient. He can, I would never do this, but I could leave for a weekend and he'd be fine, right? He would make all the food that he needs to. He'd be able to, he'd set himself up. He'd probably still do some of his homework, and he would know how to do it. Like, he'd cover himself. At 9 years old, obviously would never do that, but he's fully capable of he'll make his own eggs, make his own pancakes. He's all set. Like, got it, Dad. Yeah. No big deal. As long as there's food in there, he'll take care of it. But obviously, I've got Diana, who's, as we're recording this, she turns 1 in 2 days, right? So it's like, she's obviously, it reminded me of this terrible story. I heard all that afterwards. But, she's like clearly not capable of like doing her own stuff, right? It's asinine to me. But it's the part that's asinine is what's still going on in my brain. There was this, and I've got to get the story out because I can't, my brain can't get past it. So this was a while ago that this happened, but this lady went on a 10-day vacation with her boyfriend to Puerto Rico, and then stopped in Detroit and a couple other places, left her 18-month-old kid at home all by himself with a couple bottles of crib, and then just took vacation for 10 days. Shockingly, she returned home to a deceased baby. What do you know? And then like the neighbors, because it's an apartment, they can hear the baby like crying and screaming on the neighbor's like Ring telephone thing. And, nobody knows, obviously. I mean, if kids cry, that's just what they do, right? So nobody knows what's going on the other side of that door. But as I'm telling the story about my little lady just, hanging out, my little 1-year-old, I was like, that came in my brain. So it was hard to get past that mentally. But like, I could not imagine the thought process one would have to do that. But goodness gracious, boy, did I just bring this to a much darker place. Like, we were all happy and talking about fun stuff, but in my previous life, I saw a lot of terrible, terrible things, and that was one thing that it's made me very guarded in how I communicate about the kids, how I communicate with the kids, how I look at other people as parents, how I assess people as I'm walking around. Dealing with some of the darkest of the dark. I mean, my buddy and I ran. I was not one of the lead agents on it, but a case on a double murder where a guy killed his fiance and unborn child. She was 8 months pregnant. He killed them both, and I was like, "What darkness in the world?" And running a bunch of child sex cases and various other different stuff. And now, like, it's just altered my world so much and how I look at things, which I think is both good and bad, right? It's good in so much that I know the hurt and pain that kids have out there, and I never want my kids to ever feel any sort of even remotely close to that sort of pain. I want them to know that there's darkness out there. Like, I don't hide darkness from my kids. They know, especially my 9-year-old, my 5-year-old, he's still of the mind that, like, and this is slightly tongue in cheek, but if I died tomorrow, he would be of the mind of, it's okay, I'm going to see him in heaven, and that's, it's a blessing that, he's at an age where he thinks that way, but also, he knows that there's heaven, he knows that there's hell, he knows that darkness is out there. My 9-year-old is very aware and asks a lot of questions, and it's like, this is unreal what you see out there. But man, oh man, that my brain went down a very dark path traveled on that one. So
that's like, how do you combat that? And it starts with home. I mean, there's if someone feels led to go and make it their thing to be on a mission and solve you know, these issues, but it first starts with in your house, you know, in, you know, home base.
Yep.
Before you, it's like put on your mask before you go, like take care of yourself, husband and wife, kids, family, and then from there, you know, be in a place to also go